Are you ready to master the waves of medical device product development? Well, wax up your surfboard because you are listening to Inspired by Amua. And here is your medical device product development expert, that Hawaiian-hearted hostess who will help you hang 10, Megan Alonso.
And aloha! You're listening to Inspired by Amua, where we help you master the waves of medical product development. Each week, we interview guests that educate, guide, and inspire to give you and your product the skills you need to hang 10. If this is your first time listening, Amua is a Hawaiian word spelled I-M-U-A, and it means to advance forward with passion despite rough waves. There are plenty of those in the medical device industry, so keep listening because we've got you covered. My next guest today, we're actually sitting outside here at a wonderful restaurant in La Jolla. We just finished up lunch, some trout, hummus, salad, and we're getting down to business. So he has several decades of experience in quality systems, regulatory, clinicals, and he's here to just share his wisdom, give you some guidance and insight into that and ways to avoid some major wipeouts. He is, I called him the paramedic, and people definitely call him when they're calling 911, getting an FDA warning letter and how to fix things. So you don't want to be in that situation. Listen to him. Take his advice, hire him to prevent this ever happening to you. So please help me welcome my father-in-law, actually, Al Alonso. Al, are you ready to hang 10?
We're ready.
All right. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you wound up in the medical device industry.
Well, I got my degree in chemistry and went to work for a pharmaceutical medical device company. And worked as a chemist, and then got involved with specifically dealing with medical devices within that group.
So I know that you've worked for a lot of different companies in the industry. Just kind of give us a summary of your experience, some of the cardiac and the orthopedics.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I worked for over 20 years with a cardiovascular company that manufactured heart valves, annuloplasty rings, things for cardiac surgery. And I was responsible for quality, regulatory, and clinical affairs for them. And then that company got bought out and moved to Europe. So I worked, I had a total of close to 10 years experience with an orthopedic implant company, hips, knees, shoulders, spinal implants. So I have a lot of sterile implantable product experience in medical devices in every classification of medical device in the United States and also in Europe, dealing with them. So just a variety of different products over the years. And then when I got into my consulting business, when I retired from industry, I've just been able to see a lot of varied types of products also, and that's even broadened my perspective in the medical device industry. I've gotten involved a little bit in pharma, but I didn't feel comfortable with it, so when asked, I usually refuse to do pharma consulting work and stay with what I really understand best, and that's medical devices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pharma, I know it's just a different animal. It's a lot more intense, it seems like. And I think it's nice. One thing that you didn't mention that I know, you're fluent in Spanish. Alonso is Spanish, and when you were working for DJO, you went down to Mexico regularly and assisted with the operations down there.
Yeah, well, I'd go down there and just look at their operation and give them feedback and stuff like that. But and then I have a consulting job where a startup company in the U.S. is having their product manufactured in Mexico, in Tijuana area, and so I go there, I'll visit, or most of the time I deal with them on the phone. So I deal with the engineers, helping to develop a quality system.
Good. So in your corporate work before and in the companies that you're helping right now in your consulting, I know you probably see a lot of mistakes that people have made that could have been avoided if they did some work up front. So kind of tell us about those. Maybe a situation where a company was in hot water with the FDA because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, well, that's usually when they call somebody like me. It's a 911 call. It's urgent, and they need help. And that's a tough way to do it retrospectively.
Yeah.
So, my experience has been, especially with people that understand technology and understand how to develop that technology, many times, and in fact, most of the times I see that people think of quality and of the regulations relative to quality systems after the fact, ex post facto, and that's very hard to do because now you've got to go back and build a quality system. It's like building a highway when you already have traffic on it, and it's it's a very difficult. So I see that repeatedly, and I see that the entrepreneurs don't understand. They don't want to do it, and they don't understand the significance of it. Sometimes they have to learn the hard way. That an FDA investigator or a notified body comes and audits them, and they get bad news that way. So that's the wrong way to get it. So you want to start out from the beginning, developing a system that is compliant with the international and the U.S. quality management system.
So if you mentioned right there the U.S. and the international, so I guess that depends on where they're manufacturing their product and where they intend on selling it, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. But essentially, what companies do, if they're in the United States, they go through the process of getting a CE mark, and that's the European Union. And you can take that certification and the quality certification that you receive from that, and if you do the same thing in the United States, you don't get a certification, but in the United States you are audited, and if you're in good standing, the FDA will give you a letter stating that you're in good standing with the FDA. They won't give you any certification, like I said. So people can take that, and then it'll help you to register all over the world. So if you have a CE mark and you have, a U.S. Products that are being sold and you're in good standing with the FDA, you don't have any regulatory actions against you, you can use those types of certifications and clearances to be able to market all over the world.
Mm-hmm. So what is something that you would tell someone just starting out, that doesn't know their way around quality systems and regulatory, doesn't know what they have to do? What would be the one piece of advice that you could give them starting out?
You need to find someone that really understands the medical device industry and the quality systems and the regulations. Not someone that says that they understand it, but you need to get someone that has the experience, regulatory experience, the application of it. Not even some people will give you a good story because they understand the laws, but it's another thing to understand the application of that system relative to being audited and relative to what investigators look for when they come to audit. So my biggest advice to someone that's starting up is get somebody that really knows their business from a quality point of view, and how to apply it within your system and how to develop your system so that you can be in compliance from the very beginning. Often people develop product and and they think, hey, I can just do this on the side, go get my applications or whatever I need to do, and that's a very difficult way to do it. They believe that it's not a hard thing to do, but it is challenging if you don't know what you're doing, and especially retrospective, as I keep saying that, and I hear that repeatedly. Retrospective is a hard way to go.
Yeah.
One thing,
design expensive way.
in a very expensive way, and design control needs to start at the beginning, because what you're doing is you're writing, in effect, a journal relative to the development of your product. And a lot of people, again, don't understand that, but that's what the FDA wants to see, how you developed your product, the different roads that you took, and how you got to where you are with your current product, and did you verify it, and then did you validate it? So verification, did you build what you said you were going to build? So that starts up with the very beginning when you do your design specifications. And then validation, does it do what you say it's supposed to do? One, did you build it, what you said you were going to build? That's verification. Does it do what you said it was going to do? That's validation. Mm-hmm. And with the FDA and with the European Union and other people that audit you, they want to see documentation. And there's the old saying in the industry, if it's not documented, it's a rumor. And therefore, you get no credit for it.
Yeah, I like that analogy, or that statement, I guess. So, besides working with you directly, which is a great option for all of you listeners, I highly recommend working with Al. If they have someone close by that they're evaluating, what are some key giveaways or some key things to look for when they're hiring someone that shows that experience, not that they just talk about doing it, but actually shows that they've worked with the FDA before and
mm-hmm.
have been successful in regulatory and quality?
Right. So the way you learn this stuff is by experience. The school learning really, helps you get a step forward, but it's really the application, the taking of the regulations and then applying it specifically to your organization. And if you can imagine, the regulations cover products from tongue depressors, crutches, all the way to heart valves, pacemakers, laser equipment, so you can imagine the flexibility within them, within that specification. So when you get somebody that has experience, and you look for it in their resume. Where did they work? What work did they did? What did they do? And get some verification of that they actually, have had that experience. Ask people that have worked with them. Get references from them relative to their knowledge and their application of that knowledge and their ability to work with others to get things done. So that's the biggest recommendation I have when you go out to look for someone. Look at their resume. Do they have several years of experience dealing with medical devices, dealing with quality systems, being audited, and can you verify that by their references?
Mm-hmm. You've probably had some clients that worked with someone else before and then either figured out that they were going down the wrong path or later on had some issues with the FDA and came to you, right?
I've seen that happen, yes, unfortunately.
So you're like you mentioned earlier the 911 call, so you would be the paramedic of this field, huh? Well, although you don't like to be, you'd be the paramedic, but you would prefer to be triaging it from the beginning and guiding them through the right
holistic medicine, preventive medicine, right?
There you go. So to summarize there before we move on, you want to start this from the beginning. There's important things that need to happen as far as design controls. You need to get hooked up with someone that knows the industry, knows what to do, and you can verify that from other people looking at their resume, and just make sure that you're in trusted hands, and you want to start that from the beginning. So, Al, tell us a story of, I guess, any of your stories that they didn't do what they were supposed to do, and then now you're helping them. So, and obviously I know you can't give a lot of names, so you could just kind of briefly cover the situation and what happened.
Yeah, so I was involved with a company. I asked to come help, and when I did my gap assessment of their quality system.
So what is a gap assessment? Let's start with that.
So you go into the organization, you know the regulations, and you see where they don't comply with the regulations, and then you see where they do comply. But the biggest area is where they don't comply, because that's the gap. That's the gap you have to fill in. So I had a chief operating officer of the company asked me to do a gap, one in particular, and so I did that, and I provided him a 7-page report. And then the president of the company that I did it for, and their vice president of scientific affairs or regulatory, of R&D, they pretty much didn't believe me. But in effect, I told them if the FDA came in, if you got an audit by someone that knows what they're doing, and not all auditors are equal, they'd shut you down or give you a warning letter and put you on notice by that. A warning letter is a very bad thing to get. So then we went down the process. Okay, once they started to believe it, then developed a plan.
Well, that's good that you were able to convince them and they didn't just say, okay, see you later.
Yeah. So we developed a plan and we triaged it. You can't do everything and you're not going to shut the company down. So this is what I was saying, trying to build a highway where the traffic's going on it is very difficult. So we set about the process as the company was operating, trying to lay out a plan and trying to do the most significant aspects first. So we laid that out. Everybody got involved and understood this is the plan. And then we had to hire several consultants to come and take over various areas of the gaps that were missing. Someone for design control, someone for dealing with their clean room, and someone dealing with their document system. And that over time, they were able to get out of jail, so to speak, with the Europeans, because they saw the hope, they saw the promise that people knew what they were doing, and so they said, "Hey, we'll be back, show more improvement." And so when they came back, we showed improvement. They came back in 6 months, and we had shown great improvement. And so they continued to trust that the system would be fully implemented. But then came the FDA, and we just didn't have enough time to clean all that up. And so, so long story short, there was one warning letter for the clinical system and one warning letter for the quality system.
So what's the status on that today? Are you still working on that?
That's all been taken care of.
Oh, great.
It took 2 years to get out of that. So very expensive too.
Yeah. So
very expensive going backwards.
If they started and just laid out a more solid foundation in the beginning and really dedicated the resources to that, they could have prevented it.
It's the pay me now or pay me later.
Yeah.
Pay me now, people don't want to do it because they don't understand the significance of the regulatory system and the quality system. But the pay me later is much more expensive. And unfortunately, people find out that way. They pay me later. The cost later is much more significant. Some of the things with warning letters, You can't get certain types of products approved by the FDA. You won't get certificates for foreign governments. What I was telling you, when you get they want to see that so that you can sell in other countries. So the company wasn't able to do that because they weren't able to get those certificates for foreign governments. So
Yeah.
it's a costly penalty.
Mm-hmm. So for takeaways, you need to pay regulatory quality up front, not wait till later, and that should be a big factor into the raising capital part too. That should really be taken seriously, and just being more prepared, having those numbers in front of your investors, they're going to like that rather than kind of skirting around the issue and trying to get investment quick, but then getting in trouble later. And they'll be less likely to keep injecting cash into the organization if they see that you were ill-prepared. So Al, I know probably people are going to want to work with you so they prevent these mistakes. So what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, I'll just give them my phone number. My cell number is 512-925-1079. 512-925-1079. And, it's not about me, because there's just a lot of good people out there. There's a lot of knowledgeable quality system, regulatory affairs, clinical affairs people that know the business, that have the integrity, and have the experience to do the job. So it doesn't have to be me.
Mm-hmm. What's your email if they do want to work with you?
So it's AALONSO10@austin.rr.com. Alonso10@austin.rr.com.
Sounds good. Al, well, thank you for being on the show today and just kind of downloading that wisdom from your brain, and so other people can learn from the experts here. That's what we're all about, inspired by MUA. So. And it was a great lunch that I had. So
yeah,
it's
a good lunch. It was a good lunch. Thank you, Megan.
All right. Thanks, guys, for hanging with us on the show today. You're probably hungry by now, so you can go grab something to eat. And while you're at it, if you want someplace for more advice and more support and just learning from each other, check out the Inspired by Amua Facebook group. So you go to facebook.com, search Inspired by Amua, and I'll see you in there. Until next episode, Amua.
Mahalo for joining us. If you're new to riding the waves of medical device product development, or if you've been in development for a while already, Inspired by Amua is here to surf with you. Want to be a master of the waves? Text HANG10, that's all one word, HANGTEN, to 44222. We'll send you the most common wipeouts companies make in product development so you can avoid them and reach master wave status. Again, that's HANG10 to 44222. We publish a new episode every Tuesday, so catch us at inspiredbyamua.com. Amua.